Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into one of the hottest technologies in API development, GraphQL. We'll look at where it came from, the different ways you can build with it, and how it's totally changing the game for how big companies handle their data. So let's just jump right in with a problem that I'm betting a lot of you developers out there know all too well. You're building these modern front-end apps, right? Maybe using something like React, and you need to pull in data from all over the place in all these different shapes and sizes just to build one single rich user experience. But the old school APIs we've been using, they can be super rigid, and you end up with this tangled mess you see right here. You're either overfetching, just sucking down way too much data you don't even need, which totally bogs down your app, or you're stuck making request after request after request, just trying to piece together the info for one screen. It's a mess. And this constant tug of war between our fast-moving, hungry front ends and the more structured, maybe slower-moving back ends, well, that's what we call the API data dilemma. It's a huge bottleneck, and it can just grind development to a halt. So what's the fix? I absolutely love this analogy. Think about a classic REST API like ordering a combo meal at a fast food joint. You get the number 3. It comes with the burger, the fries, the drink. That's it. You get what's on the menu, even if you didn't really want the fries. But GraphQL is like a buffet. You grab a plate, you walk the line, and you pick exactly what you want. A little of this, a lot of that, no more, no less. And that buffet idea, it really gets to the absolute core of what makes GraphQL so powerful. It's a query language for your API. It totally flips the script. It puts the client, the app that's actually asking for the data, in the driver's seat, giving it complete control over what it gets back. You know, it makes total sense that this whole thing started at Facebook, way back in 2012. They were dealing with these incredibly complex mobile apps and trying to make them work over, let's be honest, pretty slow networks. So they needed a way to get data more efficiently. They open-sourced it in 2015, and boom. It just exploded into this huge ecosystem with its own foundation and tools for pretty much anything you can dream. Okay, so we get the why, but what about the how? Let's say you're sold. You want to build a GraphQL API. Where in the world do you even begin? Well, it turns out you've got some pretty fundamental choices to make right from the get-go. Your whole journey really starts with this one big decision. There are basically 3 main paths you can take. You've got schema first, where you design the API contract before you write a single line of implementation code. Then there's code first, where your code actually generates the schema for you. And finally, domain-driven, where the whole thing is generated right from your data sources, like your database. And this table does a fantastic job of laying out the trade-offs. Schema first is awesome, because you get that crystal clear contract up front, perfect if you're trying to put a GraphQL layer on top of some old REST APIs. The catch? You often have to write a ton of manual resolver code, which is the logic that goes and fetches the data. Code first is a lifesaver on big projects that are changing all the time. And domain-driven, that's all about raw speed, cutting out tons of boilerplate to get a high-performance API up and running fast. There's no single right answer here, just the best tool for your specific job. And yeah, performance, it's a massive deal. This benchmark just goes to show how much your choice of tooling can affect throughput. And the why behind this is actually super interesting. Domain-driven tools like Hasura can often take a complex GraphQL query and compile it directly into a single, super optimized database query. That kind of efficiency can give you a mind-blowing performance boost. I mean, look at that. It's more than double the requests per second. That's huge. Okay, but what happens when you're too successful? Your one little API is a hit, and now it starts to multiply. Before you know it, you've got dozens of microservices, each with its own data, all managed by different teams. Suddenly, that beautiful simplicity starts to look, well, complicated again. This is where the problem really shifts, you know? As your company scales, you're not just building one graph anymore, you're trying to build a graph of graphs to tame all that complexity. And that is exactly where this idea of the supergraph becomes absolutely essential. And this is what that looks like in the real world for a lot of companies. It's that tangled web all over again, isn't it? Every time a team wants to build a new app, they have to figure out how to talk to all these different siloed services. It's a ton of duplicated effort and a recipe for headaches. So how do you fix it? Enter the supergraph. It's this really elegant architecture that takes all those separate services and data sources and weaves them together into one single unified graph. And just like that, you get the best of both worlds. Your app developers get to query one simple, beautiful gateway, while all the individual teams behind the scenes still get to own and manage their own microservices. Now, a crucial thing to get is that a supergraph isn't some magic piece of software you just install. It's really a framework, a set of principles built on 4 key pillars. You need a unified layer to describe all your data, a way to compose and join data across services, a governance model so teams can work together without stepping on each other's toes, and a smart query engine that knows how to execute a request across that whole distributed system. All right, you've built your API, you're feeling good, but now comes the really tough part, taking it live and getting it ready for the real world. Moving GraphQL from your laptop into production brings a whole new set of worries, especially when it comes to security. And when you go live, security has to be front and center. I mean, absolutely paramount. Because with GraphQL, you typically just have one single endpoint, usually something like GraphQL. It's not like REST, where you have lots of different URLs to secure. That single endpoint is an incredibly powerful front door. But if you don't lock it down properly, it can also be a massive target for attackers. So, you need a very specific checklist for GraphQL security. First off, and this is a big one, disable introspection in production. Seriously, it's a feature that lets people ask your API what it can do, which is basically like handing a burglar the blueprints to your house. Don't do it. Then, on top of normal rate limiting, you have to protect your backend services from crazy queries by adding things like depth limiting to stop someone from making a query that's infinitely nested, and node limiting to put a cap on the total amount of data someone can ask for at once. And just remember, this journey, it doesn't just stop the day you deploy. Adopting GraphQL isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a cycle. You build, you ship, you learn from how your API is being used in the wild, and you mature your whole approach over time. This idea is actually captured perfectly in what's called the GraphQL maturity model. It shows this really typical path. An organization might start small, with just one team building one subgraph to prove the value. But as more and more teams get on board, they start moving towards a federated supergraph that serves the whole company, which comes with its own set of complex challenges and tooling. So, as we wrap up here, what have we really seen? GraphQL is so much more than just another piece of tech. It's a completely new way for developers to talk to data. It lets you ask for exactly what you need, it lets you connect all your scattered data sources into one cohesive whole, and ultimately, it lets you build better apps faster. Every company's data has a story to tell, and GraphQL just might be the best language to tell it in. So the only question left for you is, what story are you going to build?